What's up, everybody? Live from San Jose, it's your boy GB, Sports Counterpoints podcast. Brian out in Southern Cal, Coop in South Central Hayward. What's up, brothers?
Right. What's going on?
Man,
What's up?
back to it, man. Back to it. Anybody thanks first of all, thank you anybody and everybody for listening and check us out. If you listen to us on YouTube, like or subscribe. It helps the channel grow. I hate saying it, but it's part of the game. So we appreciate you. That is my YouTube channel, and there's more stuff to come on there too. So it all kind of blends in. But Sports Counterpoints podcast, find us on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to them. So appreciate y'all for listening. Good show today. Lots still happening in sports. So we'll talk about the NFL and the new alterations to the Rooney Rule as far as coach and front office hiring. That'll kind of lead into Brian Flores's lawsuit and some any updates we kind of seeing or thinking about. We'll also talk about the NBA playoffs, which are kicking off officially on Saturday as far as the first round. There are playoff games in progress the last day or so, and then tomorrow. But we'll talk about that first round as well as a little bit of baseball as we get into the baseball season after the contract dispute. So, good stuff. Let's hop in, guys. So the new Rooney Rule, man. Let's talk about it. If one of you has it up, let's kind of run down like what it means, and then let's get some thoughts.
Yeah, okay, I'll start with that. So there's three big things that they kind of changed in the Rooney Rule. The first being that all 32 clubs needs to hire a offensive assistant coach or offensive coach that's either a female or ethnic minority. And teams get funding from the league to pay for that coach's salary for up to 2 years. And then they also got rid of virtual interviews, which was kind of their way of saying, hey, you can't just throw somebody on there for 15 minutes in one of these types of video calls or something like that and call that an interview to check the box. I understand the effort. I don't know that they've accomplished much. I think it's weird that they decided the offensive side of the ball. If you're a minority coach who's been a defensive coordinator or a linebackers coach, you're kind of like, what about me? I do think it's cool that they're including women as in the minority coaching decisions. We've seen some pretty great progress when it comes to basketball and having women involved in the coaching ranks and GM ranks and executive ranks. So I like where their thought process was, but I just don't think that this was enough. I think that I don't think that they did this disingenuously. I just don't think that they did enough to make a significant impact, or they did enough to really push teams that have had bad practices to be better. The Dallases of the world, the Washington, whatever they are, Commanders or of the world.
What are
Cadets.
they?
The
There you go.
cadets. The cadets. Yeah.
Yeah. Those teams that still want to do things the wrong way are going to find ways to do things the wrong way. And I think what the league needs to do is put crippling punishments attached to not doing these things the wrong way. So if they get caught doing one of these, virtual interviews or interviewing a guy who's on the team that they know has no real chance, or making a decision before they've actually interviewed minority candidates, that the repercussions need to be crippling. And they didn't add any of those claws or teeth or whatever you want to call it to the way the Rooney Rule is written up. And I think that is when we'll start seeing bad behavior stop. It's when it costs you something significant. Jason, I don't know what you think about the rule itself. We'll start with that, but go ahead.
Yeah, I actually agree with the last couple points that you made regarding the punishment. If the punishment really isn't significant, I'm not sure how effective it'll be, but also as we all know in business, teams are going to circumvent rules and laws or try to circumvent rules and laws if they really want to. So, like you said, those teams that don't want to follow that rule, they're going to find some way to circumvent that. On the other hand, though, I think the reason why, Brian, they went offensive because those are the guys that are getting hired on the offensive side of the ball, and also the league has kind of turned offensively. And we kind of, we've talked about it on previous podcasts about how, coaches who get hired, defensive coaches that get hired, they don't necessarily do as well as the offensive coaches. But either way, I agree with you as well. I don't think it was they tried to make an effort, but there's still some progress that needs to be made. But when I was looking at Brian Flores, well, not really looking at Brian Flores' lawsuit, but the two guys that added themselves to it, I'm not sure if that really helps. And I'm not in the legal field. Brian, you may know a little more about this, but I'm not sure how Brian Flores wins his case against the NFL, or even Steve Wilkes or Ray Horton, because Steve Wilkes was the coach in Arizona for one season in 2018, and then they hired Cliff Kingsbury, which I understand why they hired Cliff Kingsbury. I'm not saying I would have done it, but there was pretty good reason why. There's a certain quarterback he likes, type of offense he wants to run. He's the right quarterback for it, whatever. But Steve Wilkes' attorney, Brian, is arguing that if he would have gotten another season, he would have done better than 3-13. And I don't know how you prove something like that. I don't know how something like that has merit, because we don't know if he would have had another season. Matter of fact, he was a guy that I was even surprised got hired as a head coach, and he hasn't been interviewed for any other head coaching opportunities since that happened. So, if that's your argument, how do you win something like that, Brian? I don't understand.
So here's what I'll say.
Yep.
If you remember when the case came out, I said the big mistake here was making it a class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
And I said, I think that the attorneys that Brian Flores were using were more about the attention grabbing than they were about winning the actual case.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Flores's case by itself is actually really strong, and it was only made stronger by the changes to the Rooney Rule, because what they did was that they said no more virtual interviews, because they were directly trying to respond to what happened to Brian Flores, where they later gave him, after deciding on who they were going to pick, right? They interviewed him after the fact. And that's why I was saying that they need that teeth. But because the adjustments to the Rooney Rule happened after Brian Flores launched his case and seemed to respond directly to the situation, I think his argument is quite strong. The problem is that because it's a class action lawsuit, he's got to backpack those guys and their arguments. And I completely agree with you. Like, you can't sit there and predict the future, and you certainly can't tell an owner of a team that they need to ride along with losing for one more season or any period of time based on the promise of something possibly being better. If he had a contract, he got paid, right? The coaches get their money, and so the sympathy for not having to coach to get paid isn't going to be there, in my opinion. So I do think that the Ray Horton argument and the what's
Steve
the other
Wilkes.
guy's name?
Steve Wilkes.
Yeah, Steve Wilkes. I think those are detrimental to Flores by himself. But I think Flores actually has a pretty strong argument, because he has the text messages, because it's very clear that everybody knew that they were not going to go with him, a minority coach, before they even interviewed him, and and before the team had interviewed any minority coach. It's pretty clear that there was some issue there. Where I thought he fell apart a little bit was that he went and got mad at the Texans as well. Texans and it was Arizona, I think.
Your Texans. Texans. You're right.
But here's what I think ends up happening. There's going to be a settlement, and they're going to give a chunk of money, and what's going to end up happening is that settlement's going to be based on the strength of Flores's argument, and it's just going to get divvied up amongst the other guys. And so Ray Horton and Steve Wilkes are going to get a piggyback settlement on the strength of Flores's case. So let's say they say, okay, we're gonna do $3 million, y'all get $1 million, or they're gonna do $6 million and you get $2 million. I don't know what the number is gonna be, but that's, I think, ultimately how this works out. And then what will probably happen is right after they start looking at that getting close to settlement, if that news gets out, you're going to see 3 or 4 more people jump in to try and get their piece of that pie.
Yeah.
But again, I thought from the very beginning that the attorneys that were representing Flores were more flash, that they were out there to get their name to get their names in the media. They wanted to be on TV next to Brian Flores, which they all managed to do when that it got announced. They did the whole cycle with them, and that's why they did this class action so that they could get their name, bigger in the press, and
Yeah.
it was a bad strategy, but it'll work out okay, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Guys
yeah.
have done
We'll
a
see.
job.
Yeah, not to pound on Steve Wilkes, but he also said that he was never, I guess his attorney representing him said he was never really given a chance at the job. And it was my thing when I said about Hugh Jackson taking Cleveland. I mean, there was a reason why the 7 coaches before Hugh Jackson wanted no part of the Browns. And I know you made a good argument as to why Hugh Jackson took that job. And I've even heard Hugh Jackson say out of his mouth why he took the job, but it's a bad job. And if you know that you're not going to succeed or feel that the odds are stacked against you, why take the job? I mean, that's an argument that could be made on the other side. Not saying that either side is right
Millions
or
of
wrong.
dollars.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Not saying
I'll
either
take it.
side is
I'll
right or
take a
wrong.
bad job right now
I'm
for
with
10
you.
mil a year.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you.
See you
But
on
also,
Monday.
but okay, so Brian, let's just say, okay, he's suing the NFL. What if the NFL just starts bringing up white guys that got like Jim? Let's take Jim Tom Sula. He was the coach in the
Yeah.
49ers, and I bet against them all year that year and came up with a lot of money because he was terrible, but he only lasted a year. You got Mike Mularkey. He lasted a year in Jacksonville. Before Pete Carroll took over, Jim Mora was only there a year. Al Groh, I remember Al Groh, he was horrible. He lasted with the Jets for a year. So
Urban Meyer.
that, yeah, Urban Meyer, Bobby Petrino, he left in midway through the season, didn't even tell the players. And then there was a guy named Cam Cameron with the Dolphins. I think he only lasted a game. So Brian, in a suit like this, can't the NFL bring up these guys and say, hey, there's no racism or nothing going on here? Yeah, these guys lasted a year, and you don't hear them saying anything about it. Does that have any merit in a case like this?
Not
You
really.
think?
You can't argue that. Well, you can argue that we've done this thing before and we've done it consistently,
Mm.
but you can't say, like, the reason why I think Brian Flores' argument is strong is that has not happened to Urban Meyer. That has not happened where they interviewed a bunch of minority guys, and made a decision on a minority guy, and then afterwards say, let's just throw Urban Meyer in the mix. Like, that didn't happen, and that's kind of the strength of the argument. So the the Wilkes stuff, I told you I
Mm.
don't really think that's all that strong. But here's why they won't do that. The minute they do that, they open themselves up to a discrimination lawsuit or extension, because the first thing that they're going to do is, how much money did Urban Meyer get for his 3-year deal that he only coached for one and he got all the money? How much, or actually they withheld the money in Urban Meyer's? How many? And you're going to look at those white coaches and you're going to compare them to the money that those ethnic coaches got, and across the board, they were always getting less money. And it
Mm.
may have been because it was less desirable jobs. It may have been because they didn't have the experience. But you bring that question and you put that on the whiteboard, and
Mm.
consistently, Urban Meyer gets a lot more money for that Jacksonville job than minority coach who gets it, because Urban Meyer's Urban Meyer. He's got a name. But
Yeah.
you have to answer those questions if you bring it up and say, well, Urban Meyer did the same thing. It's like, yeah, but you paid Urban Meyer $36 million, and you paid whoever Hugh Jackson got $5 million or $4 million a year.
Yeah.
So you put yourself in that murky zone, and I think and I'm not a lawyer, but if I were in that kind of a situation and I were on the other side, I'd steer clear of trying to step into that in that argument, because you open up that box and it may or may not go your way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like, I'm sorry, real quick before you go. It seems like just these 5 certain teams are being targeted, like the Broncos, the Giants, the Dolphins, Texans, and one more, the Titans.
You
Like
mean
those are the
crappy
only
teams that are flipping coaches every
right
year?
every day, exactly. And the Dolphins, I mean, doesn't surprise anybody. They're in there, and
No.
the Texans think though they're okay because they hired Lovey Smith, so they think they've dodged a bullet. But we'll see.
Well,
I don't
it's
know.
interesting too, because the Buccaneers did the same, right? Like, so they just hired Todd, which I'm for. Todd Bowles has had previous coaching experience, but you just move him up. So do you kind of just circumvent the rule and just say, well, we just use someone internal, but because he was black, we doesn't trip.
Right.
So there's that, and then also Malarkey, you guys mentioned earlier. He came out, I want to say a few weeks ago, and said that he was actually a part of one of those interviews where they said he was getting the job, and then they interviewed candidates after him. And he said he felt bad about it because he prided himself on doing the right thing and playing it the right way. And here he was, as part of circumventing this rule. You know what I mean? So I think there's definitely merit to it because we all know
But
this
in
is
what?
already true. So
Yeah, but what is Mike Mularkey like? I think it sucks. I don't think Mike Mularkey should have done anything different than he did.
well, that's
Um,
yeah. Well, his is him trying to say that in his case, he's saying, it's a judgment thing. It's a, my own personal code of ethics. I want to stand up for what's right. And but to your point, you didn't say I'm not going to take the job, give it to this guy. No, you're going to take the
Right.
job, and then you feel bad about it until
When you leave.
until
you
you
have
bring
dinner
it
with
up
your
years
family.
later.
Yeah.
Well, until years later this comes up and he throws them under the
And
bus
he
and
could
Right.
say, yeah,
adds a cog to Brian Flores's class action lawsuit.
which we all knew. I mean, all of us watched the game. It's unfortunate, but I'm gonna be. I mean, kind of. I've been a black guy for a few years here in America, and it's almost like I've heard this before. Like immigrants would say, it's kind of like the immigration tax you pay, right? Like there's going to be some racism involved. It's kind of unfortunate. Like we kind of know that. Like no one was surprised when this lawsuit came out. I'll put it like that.
Right.
It was more surprising that he was, he stood on it, and it was cool that he did it. But all of us have been knowing this for years. So hopefully there's some real change in it. Also, part of that Rooney Rule is they have to interview those, black women, black
Mhm.
or women, or people of various ethnic backgrounds for coaching and also front office opportunities. So sometimes just being able to get in front of the people, kind of like you mentioned, Coop, sometimes that works to your favor because they do bring you in and say, oh, damn, this person is actually good. But I mean, we'll see what happens long term. I think it's never bad to try and infuse train more different types of thought. I never understood why more people didn't because it makes your organization better typically. If you've been losing all these years doing the same thing, why not bring in somebody with a different mindset, i.e., a Brian Flores who had Miami actually rolling? I was surprised he didn't get another job, truthfully.
Because they're racist.
Yeah.
And racist people don't want to, like, I mean, it's just a reality, right? Like they're racist. And the reason why they can't go and do something different when doing the same thing works is that the same thing is in line with their beliefs, and going the different way is not in line with their beliefs. Do I think that the owners of some of these teams, these NFL teams, are racist? 100%. 100%. And so, and even sometimes they've hired minority coaches, but I think a lot of times they've hired minority coaches because there's back office handshakes that say, "Hey, it's your turn." We've seen that. We've actually heard the Dallas organization get into trouble for that, where they were accused later on of putting a minority coach out there because it was their turn, and that was the phrase that was used. It was their turn. Um, there's racism in the NFL. I mean, I think we all know that. But
Yeah, I mean the state, like the country. So it's not. It's
Yeah. It's
every
corporate America.
organization. Yeah, every organization is a part of the
Yeah.
same structure. So
Yeah. The NFL tried. They say, hey, we'll give you some third round compensatory picks. And it seems like the only team that's probably taking advantage of that is the 49ers. The 49ers get somebody, a minority, hired as coach or GM or something. Salah, McDaniel, Martin Mayhew. They just brought on Anthony Lynn now on the staff. So, the 49ers have been racking up third round draft picks over the past 3 years. So,
interesting
they,
but I
they
thought.
think that
The Niners,
I
before
think
you say that, Brian, the Niners did that right before this rule came out too, and they brought
right,
Anthony Lynn as an offensive assistant.
right,
Interesting. Go ahead, B.
right.
well, I was gonna say, I think hats off to them. I think that shows that they are not afraid of doing that, and they recognize, hey, we're going to bring in talented minority coaches, and guess what happens if somebody else decides to hire them down the line? We get a compensatory draft pick,
Right, right.
and it works out for us. But they're clearly not. To Clint's point, they've done, and your point, they've done this for some period of time before it was a rule. I
Yeah,
think that speaks to an organization that is a little bit more open-minded, and
they've
probably
also
one that if you're a minority coach, you want to work for. I mean, San Francisco, obviously, the diversity there, just in general,
Yeah.
is tops in the country. So there's that.
And,
they've
and
also
plus, I
had.
get. Oh, go ahead, Jay. Go ahead,
I was
Glenn.
just gonna say they've also had Dr. Harry Edwards on staff forever,
Yeah,
who's
yeah. And
huge on that and has
right.
made a lot of those strides.
And I think it's, the fan base. I think, I know me personally, I don't really care what color you are. Can you coach and can you help us win? I mean, that's pretty much the bottom line. I don't give a damn what color you are. You know what I mean?
Sound like
So,
Al Davis, boy.
so it
Rest in
doesn't really
peace.
matter. I'm gonna
Yeah.
give a shout out real quick. Leonard Hankerson now is the wide receiver coach. Leonard Hankerson used to
Oh,
play for
nice.
the U. So I gotta,
Yeah, I
get it
remember. I
out there
remember Leonard
for him.
Hankerson.
He's on
Nice.
Shanahan's staff. So yeah. Yep.
That's what's up. Shanahan be mixing it up. So we'll see what happens. I think it's always good to just put it out there a lot of the times, right? Because it opens up eyes, and even if I mean, sometimes it's all just for show, but even then, sometimes there's still good that comes out of that, and it opens eyes and gets that next whoever's coming behind the next generation to kind of understand some of the issues and try and make changes. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. Shout out to Coach Flores, who's with the Steelers now, and we'll see what
He's a
goes on there.
linebacker coach, right?
He's defensive. I think he's just like a defensive quality control or something. Like he's
Okay.
some kind of like high level,
Okay.
just coach to be in the rooms to help the team.
And what was the name of the Raiders coach, the guy, special teams guy who's not there anymore? But remember he coached you guys last year in the last half of the season. What's his name again? Rich something?
Rich Bisaccia.
Versace. Okay. All right. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
he's with the Packers now.
right. He's a special teams coach still. Nobody hired him as a head coach. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Very good.
he did a good job with what he had, but I knew he
Mhm.
wasn't going to get, unfortunately, that head coaching nod.
Yeah.
Not even it just yeah, he wasn't going to get it, unfortunately. So word up. So yeah, that's kind of where the NFL is at. We'll see what happens. It's funny because Brian, you say like some nice people are racist. It's true. I feel like that's probably just true from America in general, hiring people that hire, people that are in power, but also just regular
Yeah.
people. It's a
Well,
mix
but
of
that was
the
why the
country,
question
right?
was what we were talking about was, why don't people go a different way? It's because they're racist. Like, and that's just a fact, right? Across the country, when people can't break out of doing the same thing over and over again, a lot of it is because in order to do that, they have to accept that what they're doing and the way they view things
Sure.
needs to change.
Mhm.
And if you don't believe that black quarterbacks can be as good as white quarterbacks, or you don't believe that a black coach can be as strong in the game as a white coach, um, in spite of the results that you've had over a period of time, you're going to keep on banging your head against that wall and say, oh, I just need the right white coach, or I need the right white quarterback.
Yeah, that's
So
that's crazy too, man. The fact that you even need to have a Rooney Rule is just,
sad.
Yeah.
it's
I
just
mean,
It's a
that's
sad
what
reality.
yeah,
it's
yeah,
what the country was built on, right? The first big
man,
business was racism and enslavement. So
yeah.
anyway, I'm not going to even take y'all
And
there. It's
hose.
yeah, well, this guy. It's funny because it's wild because I know like a lot of my friends have stopped watching football, et cetera, just because of that, which makes sense, right? Because it's kind of, and I do, just on a personal level, I do kind of, I can't say struggle with it, but I definitely think about it. Like it's wild to know that all this stuff goes on in the background and still watch and support and buy jerseys and all that. But it's wild. It's kind of like that tax I feel like I pay because if I was not going to be involved in things because of racist undertones, I literally would have to move to space.
Yeah, you wouldn't do nothing. Well,
And so it sucks, but it's kind
Hey,
of a
everyone who knows me knows I'm a big believer in corporate responsibility. And if I ever got to a point where I thought that rooting for particular teams or different organizations or the NFL as a whole um, would affect the bottom line when it comes to racism, like if the Vikings, by example, were the Dallas Cowboys or the Washington Commanders or
Colonels,
you know Colonels,
Colonels.
whatever, the Nuggets. But the if I thought that, I would bow out of that. I mean, I do believe in corporate responsibility. I do think that all of us can pick and choose the organizations and the bigger organizations, but you got to do it full committed. You know, don't say, "Hey, I'm a huge Dallas Cowboy fan, but I'm against racism," or or sexual abuse of women, or don't you can't you got to go all in and say, "Hey, I'm going to be corporate responsible," and because that's the only way it works. Because they know that if you hedge, they get you.
Yeah.
If you're willing to show up at the game because you used to be a fan or whatever. Like for entirety of what's his nuts, Donald Sterling's ownership of the Clippers, I wouldn't go to Clipper games. Period. I went for a while, and once I realized who Donald Sterling was, I didn't care if they were free, because I had to do that.
So you're breaking it by individual organization then, not overall overarching.
Yeah,
It
because I
wasn't
don't
the
think
NBA that was, you're saying, as a part of it, even though they were complicit in it until they knew and then they got him out. It's the Clippers and Donald Sterling as an individual.
Yeah, well, I think because the organization is a collaboration of owners. They hire a commissioner, but they're paid by the owners, so it's owners. And there were plenty of owners who knew what Donald Sterling was about, and they were letting it go.
And players, they knew too. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And one of the hardest parts of learning about Donald Sterling was understanding that the reason why Dr. Jerry Buss got his money to be able to buy the Lakers, the team that I love, was because they got it from Donald Sterling. And Donald Sterling decided he wanted to have the same kind of party. But by the time I, came to all of that understanding, all the stuff with Donald Sterling had unraveled, and he's now gone, right? And I will never like the Clippers, but Steve Ballmer comes off as a really good owner.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Well, I mean, it's interesting thought. I think that actually be a kind of interesting topic for a future show. But we're already leaning to the NBA, which is a kind of a perfect segue. NBA playoffs underway, playing games are going, which I actually kind of like. I can't even front. I like the playing games. But what are you guys thinking about the playoffs this year? Who you guys thinking has a chance? This first round starting Saturday. So, what do you think?
I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think I wasn't a big, huge playing game guy, but like you said, Glenn, I think I kind of like it.
It gives a little fun to the end of the season. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, these games are useless.
Yeah, you got teams still, playing hard at the end. Of course, they still wasn't playing no defense at the end of the season, but still, they're playing hard, trying to get into the playoffs. And I thought the Spurs were actually going to beat the Pelicans in the playing game. The Pelicans won.
Brandon Ingram, baby.
Right. I thought the Clippers were going to beat Minnesota, and Minnesota ended up pulling that out in the end.
I never thought that.
I thought
they just never show up, man. They never show up.
Yeah,
if you're a Clipper fan, I feel you, bro. And it's not even hate because I don't even care. It's just they never show up.
And I'm gonna talk about the Clippers later. And then also I thought Brooklyn would beat Cleveland. But congrats to Cleveland for even getting this far. And then of course Charlotte plays no defense whatsoever. So Atlanta just kind of, I think, put up 130 against them. And so now we got two more games tomorrow. We got the Pelicans playing the Clippers, and we got the Hawks playing the Cleveland Cavaliers. The thing about the Clippers, though, what's interesting is I want them to lose, but not because they're the Clippers and I hate them. That's not the reason I want them to lose. I want them to lose because Steve Ballmer is a guy who doesn't want to lose. Okay, so he's not paying all these millions of dollars to Kawhi Leonard to not play and Paul George not to show up in big games or whatever or lead the team. I think he'll make some changes if they lose to the Pelicans. So I'm going to be a Pelicans fan tomorrow and hope they beat the Clippers. Now, I'm on record. I think the Clippers are a slightly better team, but I'm still going to be rooting for the Pelicans just because I want to see what Ballmer does. It seems to me he's the type of guy that'll blow up this team and just start over because this guy wants to win. But B, what you think about the play-ins?
So I've always been a fan of them. I always thought that they added some interest, and I also thought that it's the thing that it does really well is you usually have a few teams that are within a win, right? And the East is kind of an example of that. If you had four teams that were really tied within one game of each other, there was this glob. So let them play it out, and it's something to do. I like the kind of the winner take all strategy and the way that they do it. It adds interest. It's so far it's kind of broke the way I thought it would. I obviously like the Pelicans, and I really like Brandon Ingram, and so when I see
McCollum's a nice pickup too.
And you got CJ McCollum, and they don't have Zion, who I think will forever be. I think he might end up on that big bust list at some point in time in his career if he can't.
I like Zion, but the big etouffee.
You said, hey, wait, you didn't say the big bust list, right? Is that the big bus? The big one.
Yeah, well, he's got one.
Right.
But and obviously, I really like some of the young talent on Cleveland. I've been saying that throughout the season, and like to see where they're going. So, anyways, getting to the actual games themselves, I think the Clippers are going to beat the Pelicans. I hate the Clippers. I'd love to see them lose. I'd love to see them lose by 150.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him go on the court and throw balls that go sideways instead of forwards. There's nothing I don't like about them. But
Jerry
Ballmer,
West.
I don't think he's even there anymore. Jerry
he's
West.
there. He's
Oh, he's
there. He's
there?
still a
Oh, okay.
consultant.
Okay. Well, then, yeah.
Um,
All right.
but two of the players that I've historically liked in Paul George and
Kawhi?
what's his name, Kawhi, are on the team. But anyways, that's not the point. The point is, I think they are just a little bit better than the Pelicans, and that the Pelicans are going to need to have a game where both McCollum and Ingram go off in order to be able to overtake the consistent talent that the Clippers have. The Clippers won 5 straight games to end the season. They beat Milwaukee in that period of time. They beat Phoenix in that period of time. They racked up some pretty strong wins coming down the end of the season. And I think losing that first play-in game has made them hungry, especially after those crap Beverly antics. And I think they're going to come out, and I think they're probably going to find a way to win that game.
So let me tell you something, B.
Yeah.
I'm happy the Clippers lost that last game. Well, not one because they're Clippers, but here's why. I had them beating Memphis and then beating the Warriors and then going to the Western Conference Finals, losing to Phoenix. Now, if they win, if they beat the Pelicans, which they're going to lose the Phoenix, which I think they're going to beat the Pelicans. They're going to lose the Phoenix, exactly. So, I don't have to. I can see them exit the playoffs earlier rather than later. So yeah, it was good that Minnesota had won.
And then on the other side, I haven't bought into trade the same way a lot of people have. I've been a Mitchell guy when it came to all of that, but I'm gonna pick Cleveland here. I think they're hungry.
They were hooping. They were hooping that last game.
I think they're hungry. I think they're young. I think that they know that they are better together, and so they don't try and give the ball to any one particular player. I think they play as a team. I think they know how to win a game like this. And I think Trey is going to come over and chuck up 50 shots, and if he makes them, they're gonna win. But I'd give the edge there to Cleveland. That's how I would go. I think that that's probably a more interesting game. And if Atlanta beats them, I won't be shocked. But I think Cleveland can win this game because I think they're a better team. They don't have the most talented basketball player on the court, right? That's
Garland could hoop.
But yeah. Garland, who's the guy that I've been saying for quite some time, I think is real, is showing out, and he plays hungry, but he plays team basketball. And I think that's enough to get in this situation, get out of this situation.
Yeah, Brian, I would be with you on Cleveland. The only reason I'm not is because Jared Allen is out for the playoffs. That's the only reason. I think he helps them a lot. And with him being out, I think Atlanta has the edge here. They're favored by 2 points. So even the odds makers think this might be a close game and that Cleveland has a legitimate chance to win. It wouldn't surprise me if Cleveland won, but I think Atlanta will win only because I think Jared Allen, if he would have played, I think they definitely would have won this game, but we'll see. Should be
what about the rest of the first round? Just give me a quick rundown of who y'all think is going to take something.
Okay, B, Miami and the winner of Atlanta and Cleveland. Who you got?
Miami.
I'm with you on that. Toronto and Philadelphia.
Give me Philly.
I'm going with Philly only because Toronto doesn't have a go-to guy. I don't know who you're gonna get those points in clutch moments.
I'm not picking Philly because I think Philly's great. I think Philly's just better.
Right, exactly. Okay. Milwaukee Bulls.
Give me the Bulls. No, give me
What?
Milwaukee. Give me
Okay,
Milwaukee. Give me
okay, all
Milwaukee.
right.
Give me
Bring you back to earth. Bring you back. Okay.
Milwaukee.
All right. You got Brian's favorite player, Lonzo Ball, is out. This is probably why he's picking the Milwaukee Bucks, but I'm going with
No. It's that I like the Chicago Bulls, and I like the way that team's put together. I like the way I know you don't like DeMar Rosen. I think he chokes in there.
No.
I
He
No, he
chokes,
hoops.
yes. He
He
does.
hoops
if,
though.
Okay, I got
yeah,
you.
if
Okay.
you had Chicago against either Toronto or Philly, I'd probably take Chicago, and I know that they're a lower seed.
Yep.
But I think Milwaukee is just that good, and they're great on defense.
Yep.
And I think that's enough. So
So
give me
I'm with you
Milwaukee.
on that. If the Bulls are playing other teams, I would take them. This is where DeRozan's ceiling comes in, but I think this is where also the Chicago Bulls ceiling. They can match up with the lower teams or whatever, but Milwaukee is a tough ask. So I'm with Milwaukee as well. This should be a good series. Boston and Brooklyn. Who do you got?
I'm gonna go with Boston.
I'm gonna go with Brooklyn, and the only reason why is because I like the
Kyrie.
Durant Kyrie over Tatum and what's the other guy name? Jalen Brown, I believe, or
Jalen.
Marcus Smart or whoever.
Totally get
But
it.
they also got a guy, I forgot his name, Williams or whatever his name is. He's a good defensive guy. He's out for the entire playoffs as well. That's the only reason.
Eric
It
Williams.
wouldn't surprise me if this went 7, and it wouldn't surprise me if Boston wins. But I'm going with Brooklyn in 6. All right.
And I feel the exact same way in opposite. I could see this game going down to the end. I think this is probably the series, even though it's a 7-2. I think this is the series that most people are going to be watching the closest because it's got the star power. It's got the young and hungry versus the other ones. I think
The other one.
I don't know what to call him. We would call him old man at this point. I don't think
I'm gonna
Kyrie's
say that's-
old.
This guy just described us.
Right. Oh wait,
but-
okay. Oh, Brian, I gotta give you over under games Ben Simmons plays in this.
Oh, donut. He's not playing.
He's not playing. Okay, all right. So
Um,
go ahead, B.
Well,
Go to the West.
How about this? I'll do over under. If the line is over under 2, do you take under or over?
How many games? Oh, I'm taking under.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll take under as well. But yeah,
I'm taking under. Yeah.
I don't think he plays. But but here's the thing. I don't like Kyrie as a person and player, but he is ridiculously talented.
Yeah.
Ridiculous, and when he plays as well as he can, it is really, really, really hard to beat the team.
Yeah.
And when he has the most talented player in the league, full from end court and KD, there with them, it's hard to see why they lose. But they play like crap together pretty frequently, and so I'll go with Boston.
Yep, not a bad pick. All right, so Phoenix and Pelicans or Clippers. Yeah, I'm not even going to even discuss that. Let's take Phoenix.
I don't care who the team is. I love the Pelicans. I love Brandon Ingram.
Right.
Phoenix.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Now here's one, because your boy's in this one. You got 2 of your boys. You got Luka from Dallas and you got Mitchell from Utah.
Luka's not my boy.
Yeah,
but
Luka's
not
out.
your boy? Okay, Luka's not your boy.
Luka's out with an ankle this first game, I think.
Yeah, but in general, he's just not. He's not that guy. I think.
Okay.
I think Luka's got a shelf life with his attitude and his style of play.
Mm-hmm.
He's ridiculously talented, but I don't know that he's going to ever win a championship that way. I will take Utah.
And I was going to take Utah even if Luka was healthy.
He's only out for a game, I think, but and he'll be back. But
I just think he's the better team. And I think Quinn Snyder's a better. I mean, Jason Kidd, cool from the town with everything, but I'm taking the coach and manage. Yeah, I'm not taking Jason Kidd as a coach. Okay,
If
here
you're
we
not
go.
from the Bay, the town is Oakland. Also, carry on.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, here we go for the local fans.
I know where you're going. So
Golden State Warriors and Denver Nuggets. Who we got?
I'm going to pretend that I can look into a crystal ball and see Steph coming back and playing healthy. And I'm going to take Golden State. And I know you're going the other direction. And I 80% agree with you, but not 100%. So just go ahead and say it so that we can say I've taken Golden State.
I'm surprising you, man. I'm taking Golden State. And
What?
yes, Jamal Murray is still out. The Porter guy is out.
Yeah.
I don't think Jokic is enough. I think that there's a guy I like on there. I forget his name, but I like him. The guy
Jelani is going to watch this and faint. Both of us go Golden State.
Wait, he's the guy that Jordan Poole, him. That guy is a baller.
Yeah,
Okay,
he is.
he can ball, and
Oh
we'll
man, we
we'll,
just
we'll we'll discuss
messed
something
up
later regarding
Jelani's
him.
whole night.
Yeah, but then that dude, I know Jelani. I know you, Jelani. I know you don't.
He's gonna record this and just play it back for us all the time. You guys even said Jordan Poole. I wholeheartedly agree
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah, I
Jordan
think
Poole is
people are gonna know
a
about him this
difference
series.
maker.
Yeah, people are gonna know about him this series. So I'm taking Golden State, and then finally we got Memphis and Minnesota.
Memphis.
I'm going with Memphis too, man. I still don't like Minnesota, even though they beat the Clippers. I just something about them I don't like. I'm taking Memphis.
His name is Patrick Beverly. And then you've never been a Russell. You've never been a D'Angelo Russell guy.
No.
And you've never been a Cat guy for that matter.
I like Cat. I still think he's a little soft, but I do like Cat. He's talented.
I agree with you with all that. I think that they're a team that has a lot of good pieces, and I actually think Patrick Beverly is a good addition to that team. You want that scrappy, hungry guy. I just think he's a jerk, and a lot of other things. But I think Memphis is just a better team.
Yeah, I like Memphis, and this could be Ja's coming out party against Memphis because they don't play. I mean Minnesota because they don't play much defense either. Glenn, you got
over under. How many posters in the first round does Ja have on Cat?
It's two. Two's your line again.
I would say, oh man, over under. I'm saying I would put it at 1.5. I would go under. I think he's gonna posterize him once.
I think I'll go over.
Yeah, I think
I'll take one. I'll take over 1.5. I think it's gonna be 3 because I think Ja is looking to do it. I think
he goes to the hoop with reckless abandon.
Anytime Cat goes to the and it gets in the key, he's going to go into attack mode. And as you said, Cat's soft. Yeah. I think he'll let a couple of those happen.
Bro, I think Ja would try and go up on Shaq. He'd only do it once, but I think he would do it.
Oh yeah.
He would go up on Shaq. Now he would be out the next 3 weeks.
That's what I said. He'd only do it once. He's only gonna do it once, but I think he would do it, man.
They put him in the they make him the centerpiece of the basketball court.
Yeah, he goes. I think he's fearless though. I'm interested to watch, man. I didn't care about basketball for a long time. Basketball season's been over for me for a long time. But I'm interested to see. I think that Boston series is a good one. I want to watch that. I want to see how Phoenix looks. I do want to see what the Warriors are looking like. If Curry's, I saw him shooting around today. You know, obviously no one's ever seen a shooter like Curry. Like the boy's crazy. Empty gym, full gym, Jim Carrey. It don't matter.
Right,
it
don't matter.
The boy's nuts.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see.
2 series I want to see. I want to see Boston, Brooklyn, and I want to see Golden State, Denver.
Yep.
You know, the rest of them, I just don't think that they're all that interesting. I think Phoenix is going to mop the floor with whoever they play.
Yeah, put it on in the background.
Yeah. I'll put games on because the games are on, but I will try and figure out how to watch the Golden State Warriors series because I want to see if they are able to come together. Given everything that's been going on this season and where Steph was earlier and where is he now and Clay and Jordan Poole and and all of that and Jokic and then the Boston Brooklyn series is clearly the best and most interesting storyline for the first round.
Yeah. Who are the Sixers playing? The Sixers got Toronto.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
So I'm with you on that, Brian. And for those of you who don't like defense, Milwaukee, Chicago, Memphis, Minnesota will be your series. If you just want to see a bunch of points scored. Yeah,
Milwaukee plays defense. They're amongst the best defensive.
But they score a lot of points. They'll put up 130 in a minute. So
they do.
So yeah, they will. So Glenn, any thoughts on any particular series?
I mean, I'm with y'all on these. I want to see Denver, Golden State. Always obviously because of the Bay, but also I want to see, like Brian said, if they can put it together. I personally think, they were still trying to figure out how to work Clay back in. It's hard to do in the playoffs. I still think they have enough to win just because of the talent that's on the team, but I think it might be more of a struggle than Warriors fans would like to admit it will be. So it could easily go 6.
Yeah, I can see it 6 or 7. Yeah, I can see that
easily. So I'm interested to see that. I always like watching Curry play, so I'm hoping he's healthy. Clay is great when he's healthy. It's just I'm interested to see how they mesh. And then, like Brian said, you got to see Celtics and Nets because you got KD on the floor, you got Tatum on the floor, you got Kyrie on the floor. It's just that's basketball. That's what you want to watch. So I'm gonna watch that Atlanta Cleveland game too tomorrow.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
I like how Cleveland plays. I didn't even know because I never watched a Cleveland game all season, but watching Garland the other night, I'm like, oh, I get it. Dude's a hooper.
Yeah.
Jason, real quick, pop quiz. If Tatum doesn't do it this season, do you think he'll ever do it?
Do
No,
what though?
I
Do
think
what?
this is the best year for him to lead the Celtics to the championship. Because the knock on him is he's not a leader, he's not a playmaker, he's not really a great defender. He's just a talented offensive player. So this would be the time, especially the way they ended the regular season. This will be the time for him to show, that he can lead this team to the championship. And Boston is not a free agent destination. Despite their history in those 11 championships they won back in the 30s. I mean, he's going to have to do it this year. And if he doesn't do it, Brian, if he doesn't do it this year, Brian, to answer your question, I don't, I'm not going to say he never does it, but the chances are very slim.
Not in Boston. Yeah.
Not in Boston. Yeah. Definitely not in Boston. Yeah. Definitely not.
I agree with everything you just said.
Yeah. Definitely not.
What? All right. Okay.
Oh, wait, I got a question actually. Glenn, let me cut you off. I got one more question, Brian. Curry's 34 years old. Now, I'm on record as stating that when Durant left, the championships, the dynasty, that's all gone. It's not happening again. With Curry being 34 years old, opposite the fact that another superstar, I doubt it, but a superstar comes to the Warriors, do you see Curry win another championship with Golden State?
Yes. I can see a situation where they win this year.
Wow. Okay.
And here's the thing. It all depends. And I'll know within 2 games of the first series if they have any chance whatsoever. If Steph is playing like he played at the beginning of the season, and Jordan Poole gets comfortable, and they find a way to get Clay worked in, like those things happen. And, Draymond's going to be kind of the jelly guy and put things together and fill the gaps and all that kind of stuff.
Who?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
You'll say good things about Jordan Poole, but I know you ain't saying nothing good about Draymond. But if they can do that, I can easily see how they get to the Western Conference Finals with Phoenix, where I think Phoenix is the better team.
Yeah.
But you always give Steph a puncher's chance.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason. And I just don't think much of the East.
Yeah.
I just don't. And I know that they've got teams that are dynamic, that are fun to watch. But I think that when you get
defending
into a
champions.
7 series, but I think when you get into a seven game series where where half of what you're doing is throwing haymakers.
Yeah.
The only team that I can see that can withstand that is Milwaukee.
Right.
And so, if it's not Milwaukee, let's say Milwaukee loses to Brooklyn and it's Brooklyn and Golden State.
NBA would love it.
Yeah.
Oh my
gosh. Would absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But I would say Golden State has a chance in that series.
Yeah. I do too.
I agree.
So I'm not saying that I'm not predicting that the Golden State Warriors are going to win a championship.
Right.
I'm saying that I can see a situation in which Steph gets another one, even at 34, in Golden State, because I don't see him ever leaving at this point.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you who's not going to win a title. That's James Harden. Okay.
Never, ever.
That's who's not going to win a title. And he wasn't playing well. Like Jalen Rose said, he wasn't playing well towards the end of the season. His stat line looked like tour dates. 415, 312. So yeah.
You can't have a $40 million quarterback, and you can't have a ball dominant point guard.
Right.
Those are the rules. Those are rules of championships.
Right. Real talk.
Y'all are harsh. Y'all said that we'll never win one, man. Some people go to teams sometimes and just ride and get them one.
Man, some people are just born losers. We got one on our team. His name is Russell Westbrook. So I mean,
shit.
Look, you can Harden can go get the GP championship.
Yeah.
Eight
on the
guy
bench.
off the bench.
Yeah.
But
GP actually he contributed to those teams, but yeah.
He did contribute. But he came off the bench, though.
Off the
bench.
Yeah.
And he was no longer.
He was supposed to get one with us, but that's beyond the point.
Right.
Yeah. But never, as long as Harden is the guy,
right.
Or
Embiid's the guy, right?
Tell Harden that. We all know it. We all know it. Embiid's the MVP this year. Yeah, Embiid's the MVP this year.
Two-headed monster.
But Harden doesn't believe in two-headed monsters. Every time he gets put with somebody else, it doesn't work out.
Yeah,
we've seen the man score 50 points a game for 10 games straight, and he's crazy. But all
and
right, well,
mocked. with Chris Paul on his
Yeah,
team.
why are you bringing up Osta? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, that's weird. All right, so we got yeah, playoffs coming. I think that's exciting. Let's do so sliding off the NBA. You guys mentioned baseball, and I'm gonna just let y'all run real quick. I know Coop's an A's fan. Brian
Yeah.
follows the Dodgers and the Twins. What do y'all think, man? Just a quick rundown of
Well,
baseball.
well, look, I'll start this now. Peerless One Sports is 4-1 in baseball this year.
Let
About
them
to try
know.
to go 5-1 if the Dodgers beat Cincinnati right now. But um, I love baseball, even though my team, the A's, we suck and we give away our best players about every year or so,
Till
like we
they
did
move to
again.
Vegas.
Yeah, until they move, right, exactly. I've been keeping up a little bit. It looks like the Dodgers are still the team to beat. A lot of talent. They struggled in Colorado offensively, but they think they pulled out a game. But when they went to Minnesota and played pretty well, Kershaw had a perfect game going until he got taken out. But right now, if you just look at the baseball records, everybody's pretty even. But I still think that the team to beat in the AL will be either Toronto or Houston, and then the team to beat in the National League is pretty much the Dodgers. I just think it's the Dodgers. Yeah. What about you, Brian?
So I think the Dodgers. There's a reason why they're just loaded with talent, but they didn't have a great preseason. And even early on, they went down 1-2 in the first three games after winning the first game. But now they're back up, and they looked great in the first inning tonight, scoring 3 runs early on the Cincinnati Reds. I think they are the team to beat in the NL. I mean, obviously the Braves, are kind of the next best team. But there's a lot of strength, I think, in the AL and Toronto and Astros. And so, look, I'm going to tell you right now. I think the team to beat for this whole season is the Dodgers.
Yep.
I think the team that's going to be the most disappointing this year is going to be the Dodgers because they just seem to find a way to just not get there.
Mm.
They've been so talented. They've thrown all the resources, all the money. They've got all the players, and somehow it just doesn't work out that way.
Yeah.
The Yankees are really the only team that can throw money at the solution and it work out. Everyone else has to play as a team.
Yep.
The other teams you're talking about, the Blue Jays, Astros to some extent, the White Sox, the Braves, they're not the hugest of market teams. It's always the Yankees that it works out for, and it never works out for the Dodgers, and
Yeah.
that sucks. I'd love to see him win, and I'd love to see the Twins do something. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think the most disappointing team is going to be the Yankees.
okay.
They have the second most wins for the over under win total is 91.5. Houston is also 91.5, and the Chicago White Sox are 91.5. The only team that has more expected wins for over under is the Toronto Blue Jays at 92.5. But I think the Yankees will be most disappointing. And even though the A's have a very low win total of 68.5, I think that's only better than Baltimore, who's going to be bad again. Baltimore is just horrible. I think the A's are going to go over at 68.5. They don't have much talent, but they're scrappy, and I think they'll find a way to win 70 games. They still, of course, won't make the playoffs and be under 500, but I think 68.5 is a tad low, but we'll see.
So give me your thoughts real quickly on San Francisco, since we have Bay Area listeners, and you already talked about Oakland. So what do you think about the Giants?
I don't hate the Giants. I think the Giants will make the playoffs. I see their over under here is 86.5. Last year they won 107. I think that's about right. I definitely don't expect them to do what they did last season. They definitely overachieved. I think the Giants are good enough to make the playoffs, and I think they will. If I had to bet money, I think they will, and I think they will have competition. And I think three teams. I'm sorry, will make the playoffs. There, I think the Giants, the Padres, and the Dodgers. So we'll see. But that's what I think. Giants aren't a bad team. I just don't expect them to do as good as they did last year.
So that means you don't think that both the Mets and the Braves can make the playoffs.
No, I think the Mets seem like a team to me that's gonna just crash and burn. That's just me.
Okay,
The Mets always do that. It's just certain teams that disappoint. Mets is just one of them. Yeah. So I do have three teams from the AF from the NL West going to the playoffs.
cool.
Yep.
Oh,
And
I got no thoughts, so don't
no,
even ask,
okay,
bro.
all right,
Oh,
all
what
right.
man? I ain't watching no kind of baseball. I'm gonna keep it real. Only time I usually watch is when I'm at the games with you. We go to see the A's,
Right, right.
which we should do because they're going to be the Oakland A's of Las Vegas, like the Raiders. So I think we
And
probably should. But it's apparently good for teams when they move to Las Vegas.
if anybody in the Bay Area that wants to go to a baseball game, I recommend the Oakland A's, not because it's my team, but because you can sit close for $30, $35. Me and Glenn know
Say,
all about it. So
oh man,
sit real close.
for
Yeah. So
45, you know, had a beer and a hot dog,
right. Real talk.
and parked at Bart.
Real
So
talk.
yeah, well, that's definitely it, man. I appreciate you guys as always hopping on. That's our show. It's April 14th, 2022. We're at our last segment. This is the minute to win it. If it's cool, I'm gonna go first and just give a shout out to Dwayne Haskins, who passed away. Young brother was a quarterback on the Pittsburgh Steelers, drafted by his hometown Washington Redskins at the time. Went to Ohio State. Um, from what I've seen, I was rooting for him. I don't watch college football, but seemed like a good guy. From everything I've read and seen in the last, few weeks, last week or so, people really shook up to see him lost, to lose his life. He seemed like a really good guy. So rest in peace to the young man and blessings to his family. And, may he rest in peace, man. So that's all I got.
Go ahead, B. You want to go?
Sure. Don't let Elon Musk buy Twitter. Anyways, I really don't have much to say, but it really, really is scary, and people should be really afraid of the idea that Elon Musk, who has a problem keeping his mouth shut and saying the right things, and could very well let Trump back on the medium get there. And then also, my thoughts and condolences to the people of New York. On Monday, they had the shooting there where 10 people were shot, and then some unexploded IEDs were found in the subway, and there was a citywide manhunt. And I have some friends who live out there, and I was watching their Facebook comments, and one of the things that they were talking about was just how the impact everyone uses a train out there, everyone uses public transit out there, and one person was writing about how they were sitting on the train, and people were paranoid and kind of keeping their distance from other people, because you see some interesting people on the train when you're in New York, and people were scared, and that's it's nerve wracking. My daughter Olivia is going to New York, and the only thing that I could think of is that this had to happen right before she goes there, and obviously I want her to be safe. But my thoughts and condolences are with the families of those people who were shot, and the people who have to go through yet another one of these types of situations. Stay safe, and my thoughts are with you, Jason.
Okay, I'm gonna go two things. Number one, about Debo Samuel with the San Francisco 49ers. I know people have heard a lot of things. He scrubbed his account of anything San Francisco 49ers, and people have asked me what do I think about that. I said I'll tell you on the podcast. So here are my thoughts. The first round NFL draft is April 28th. If Debo Samuel is traded that day, then the 49ers pretty much knew they couldn't get a deal done. If he lasts after the first round of the draft and he's on the team on April 29th, then Debo Samuels will be a 49er in the upcoming season, and they will work out a deal. I believe if he's on the 49ers when the first round of the NFL draft is over, that they're confident they can get a deal done. So to all of you, Debo Samuel, April 29th, that's the day. If he's still on the roster, they'll get a deal done. If he's not on the roster, they felt he couldn't get a deal done. Secondly, I want to, as Brian did, but I want to give my thoughts and prayers out to those who were in that mass shooting that happened in Sacramento, downtown Sacramento, where 6 people were killed and 12 were injured a couple Sundays ago, late at night, about 2 in the morning or so. So um, I knew people who were in the area, but they fortunately they didn't get shot. But it's kind of sad. There were 5 people who just started, shooting out there. I think they got maybe 3 or 4 of those guys. Looking for another one. But my thoughts and prayers are those people, who got killed during that mass shooting in Sacramento, California.
Pretty do better. US is pretty terrible. So everybody get your minds right. But yeah, so that's our show. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you always. April 14th, 2022, Sports Counterpoints podcast. And we'll catch y'all next time. Thank you.